I'm good. What was that driving past?
Yeah, they are vehicles. I'm very close to the road.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that's really awesome.
To make it natural, so I use this kind of background.
Fantastic. I look forward to it.
Firstly, thank you very much for giving me your valuable time and accepting to be on my show and accepting very fast. You just I just asked you and you immediately responded and you accepted to be on my show.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go on anything. If anybody asks me, I'm like, yeah, of course. Why wouldn't I, right? It's fun.
Maybe that is one of the reasons. That is the major reasons why you are into multiple platforms. You are a speaker, you are an author, you are a podcaster, and I have gone through your work. So I thought to tell in detail about your work to my audience and to the world who is watching and listening to this from in different platforms.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that you went through everything. And so I did the same with you. I checked out all your stuff and I love what you're doing. You're like me. You're just spreading happiness, trying to help people and grow. So yeah, I'm your person, totally.
So similar people connect together. I mean, connect with each other. Maybe that is the truth. So I want to introduce you to my audience. So can you please tell yourself to my audience?
Yeah, so my name is Danielle Lacy. I am a pretty new author. I authored my first book about 2.5 years ago, and I now am on my seventh and eighth book. They're coming out together at the same time. I work in a couple different genres. I still don't know who I am 100% yet as an author, so I try everything, and it's fun. I'm mainly a children's author. I feel like that's an area that I just love so much. That's like my favorite place. But I also have this like creepier dark side. So I just finished a book called Blue Jay and it is very creepy, very different than I'm used to. And I will be launching that under a pen name once my editor gives me the approval.
Awesome. So you're from
I'm from New Jersey.
New
Yep,
Jersey,
USA.
but I saw your I saw Canada flag.
Oh, so I travel a lot. I love traveling. So I'll go anywhere I can as far as traveling. So on my Instagram account, I have World Traveler and I've been to over 27 countries.
Awesome. So you know how people do different things in different parts of the world.
I do. I do. I lived in Holland for a year. I spent 6 weeks in Italy. I spent 2 weeks in Spain, and then I've gone back and forth to Dominican Republic, I think 5 times. I love traveling. I love other cultures, other food. I have not been to India yet. I'm sorry, but I am coming to India. I have a really good friend whose name is Malti, and she's from India. And she's like, "We're going." I have a friend out there, Rifa Kil. You should join with him. He would definitely come on to your podcast, and he is an amazing podcaster out there also. So yeah, I love traveling.
Definitely, I've seen that you're a world traveler too. So all these multi talent and multi skilled or multicultural and multi religion are there in your mind.
Yeah, so when I wrote my first children's book, The Stinky Diaper, it's all about traveling. It's about this silly diaper that gets thrown in a box marked to France instead of going to the trash can, and it travels to places that I have been. And in all of my stories, I try to bring in like pieces of who I am.
Wow. So are you a full time writer?
I I want to be a full-time writer, but I also am a coach. So I'm full-time helping people write. So I definitely am writing all the time. I'm either writing my own books, I'm coaching people how to write, how to do speeches, things like that, or I'm working with children on how to write. So no matter what I'm doing, I'm always doing something with writing. Yeah. And I went to school. I'm a certified teacher. So in history, I have my historical studies degree. I have my early education degree. So writing is just something that's always been a part of my entire life.
So it looks like you're more into communication.
Say that again.
It looks like you're more into communication.
Yes, I fit in the communication phases. I want it to be originally, I want it to be a newspaper writer. That was originally what I wanted to, or like slogans, little tiny, like funny songs. That's what I wanted to do originally. But I was 21 when I was in college and I got pregnant with my son. And at the time, my preceptor said, "Oh, no, 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 no. You cannot go into advertising, newspaper. You can't do it." So I was like, well, I'll go into history. History's writing. I love history. So that's kind of how I detoured off of what my dream was and then ventured into a whole nother area. And now I'm venturing back. So
So teaching is something which you have to tell topics to the students, and you have to prepare it, and you have to make them understand, and you have to get the success, and which means you have to tell what is there in your mind, and you have to make everybody to understand what you are saying. So that is completely different from what you are doing now. You are writing now. So 2.5 years back, you started writing, and you have completed 7+ books. That's amazing.
thank you. Thank you. I love it. The first book that I wrote, my mom got really sick, and my mom and I had a tumultuous relationship, and I decided to write my first book, Butterfly. And Butterfly is just sweet and soft and easygoing, and it's a great easy book to read. And it's just about my relationship with my mom, where she was when I was growing up and how I became who I am today. And my mom unfortunately got really sick with cancer and then passed away, which triggered this writing. So actually when I first started writing, I started to heal. It was for me. It wasn't for other people. I didn't originally think about launching this book. It was a journal. And then I realized that there was like a message. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I should get this edited. And then I got it edited and I was like, I'm a terrible, awful writer. Oh my gosh. This editor had like read everywhere. And I'm like, I am the worst writer. I can't believe I graduated with my history degree. How did this happen? So that was kind of like how I started into it. And then once I got the book edited like 5 times, and then I realized like where I need to learn and grow as a writer, and just how to the difference between public speaking, which I was doing already, and then actually writing a book is gigantic. So to cross over was very hard for me. It took me 4.5 years to write my first book. So my mom's been gone 7 years now. I just did a post the other day. She's been gone 7 years now, and my book only came out 2.5 years ago. It took me a really long time to write it. It's not an easy process. And now I spend a lot of time. I teach ESL, so English as a second language, to people in India, to people in China. I have over 50 students a week that I'm teaching. And I'm learning through that how to even become a better writer, because there's lots of stuff inside of the ESL that I'm like, oh, that's an English rule I don't even know. So I need to learn that rule. That's a great rule to teach. So it's a lot of fun and a lot of growth.
So the emotion between you and your mom made you to become a writer, and what was the response that you got for the published one?
Say that again. Sorry.
You wrote the emotion that you have with your mom, and you said you took 4.5 years. You 4 to 5 times it was edited, and what was the response that you got? And when you personally have put your complete emotions through, you expressed your emotions through the words. Before that, you are a public speaker. Now you are trying to communicate with people with just by showing your words, not your body. So how was that feeling?
That was, it's funny. I've gone back and reread Butterfly now that I wrote Blue Jay, which is a, third person book. Butterfly was in first person. And when I wrote Butterfly, it was just my first book. And everyone needs to remember that your first book is just that. It's your first book. And it's really freaking hard. So when I went back over Butterfly, I realized how vulnerable I was releasing that book. I mean, it goes into my personal life and my mom's. And my mom had suffered depression. So we talk about that. And I feel like now, if I were to rewrite Butterfly, I would give a lot more description. I don't think there was feeling in it, and I had people that came to me. The book sold over 3,000 copies, and that's right before Corona. So the book launched. The book did great, and then Corona happened, and then the public speaking stopped, and then the meeting stopped, and then so I kind of just worked on other books and kind of pushed the butterfly to the side a little bit. I'm bringing it back to life now, but I feel like that book, because I was so vulnerable and I told the truth about how I felt, and even though I didn't go into more detail, which again, I would totally go into more detail now, I feel like that book helped other people who struggle with their mom relationships kind of see a better way, a better path. My mom and I disliked each other for years and years and years. We tolerated each other. We spent time together, but it was all the time. It just always felt like crushing. And then when she got sick with cancer, I woke up and I was like, we have no time for crushing. We have no time for problems. They gave her 2 years to live. She lived 6 months. And I made a decision the moment she got diagnosed with cancer that like I was going to be a better daughter. And no matter what she said and no matter what she did, I was going to just laugh it off. I was going to change my perspective on that relationship. And I've had people come to me later and say, because you did that and because it took you until she was sick with cancer to do it, I read the book and I've done it today. So now these relationships where these parents had bad relationships, they're now fixing it. And I had one person come to me and say that they suffer depression, that they lay in the bed all the time. And because they read my book, they said that they realized that their daughter might not be forgiving. I wasn't. I was pissed. I wanted a mom. I wanted her to get up. I wanted her to do something. I wanted her to engage with me. I wanted a mom. And I think what happened was my mom thought, well, I have depression. You are the child. I'm telling you I have depression. You need to deal with it. And I was like, no, I don't have depression. I want to go out. I'm not dealing with it. That's your problem. And so it built this like animosity and this resentment in our relationship. And it lasted for 35 years. And when my mom got sick, like I said, I changed that. Well, when my writer wrote to me that now she gets out of bed and she doesn't just lay there and she doesn't tell her daughter she suffers depression, she forces herself out. I was like, amen. That was like that made that book. I don't care how many copies I sold of that book. That conversation, that moment about butterfly, that's the moment that changed it. I just helped one little girl and that was it. I was like, I cried for like a day. I was like, I can't believe the book had that impact, because you don't know. You don't know when you put your book out there what's going to happen or who can help. But I was getting flooded with tons of people telling me these similar type of stories. And it's unimaginable. It's unimaginable when you have an impact like that.
So you decided to write after your mom death, or you wrote when she was alive?
When she was alive, I talked to her a lot about it and I said like, "Hey, I really think it would be awesome like I should write a book about our story." And I wasn't sure what direction that story was going to go. I have to be honest. I actually didn't even know the direction of my book until I finished the book and got it in my hands and then read it. And then I went, "Oh my gosh, there's like a meaning to this book because it's really hard when you write a book to write the entire meaning from the beginning. It was my first book. So it wasn't until I went through the entire book and read it and I cried for myself. Like I was like, oh, this book is like, wow. Like I actually cried at the end because when you write a book, it's piece by piece by piece, like stories. So when I started with the stories, each story had their own thing, like whether or not I had to heal from a moment. In there, I talk about my childhood friend dying. Well, you know what? That's really difficult. And when I had to relive it as an adult, it was really difficult. So I would kind of like write a story, put it to the side, write a story, put it to the side. But when I finally brought like all of these pieces and stories together and read it for the first time, and I saw my life lined up for the first time, it was like a crazy, crazy emotion. So I didn't start the book. I started journaling with my mom though. I bought a journal. It was a grandmother journal so that my daughter could have her memories. And I sat down with her and I talked to her about her life and what she did. And my mom was like rich, seriously, seriously rich growing up. And she had a caretaker in the house at all times. Somebody was always taking care of her. My mom lived in the city, but yet she had horses in the country. I mean, seriously rich. We grew up very differently by the time she married my dad and raised us. It was a very different world. We grew up like a little bit under a thumb of money. We had problems. So I didn't write anything. My journals, I wrote journals growing up, always. I've always kept a journal until now. I stopped about 5 years ago and I just started it back up. So
So 300 is 3000 is a very big number. So for the first time you decided to write, and you wrote what you felt and what you have experienced, and you took time for it, and uh, you expressed what you felt in your life, and it went very far. So what was your feeling when this is going very far? It's a very big number for any beginner.
I my first open house, so I did a book signing and I did it locally in my town and my book first book signing. So and that was like crazy. I have pictures of that I should send to you if I could find them. I didn't stop signing books for 4 hours. For and I it was all friends and family and people from the town and everybody just wanting to support it. So my first major push was 250 books at this event, maybe like 260. So and then we also were doing a fundraiser at this event. So you could buy my book for the $10, but if you give $5, a woman in a women's opportunity center or a woman in a shelter was going to get another book. So 250 sold like for the $10, but then I had another 150 on that day that went to all these women in need. So it was like it was overwhelming. And then I do events, like I'll go and speak at big events, and then I was just selling in the back of the room at these events. So it was just hand to hand, hand to hand. When I would go somewhere, I bring my books everywhere. My books are always with me. They're always in my car because you never know where you are, where you'll meet somebody who will go, "Wait, you wrote a book? What's your book about? I want to read your book." And right in the back of your car, you're like a car salesman. You're like, "Here's my book, 10 bucks, thanks." So I kind of just kept hustling and hustling. And I'm a hustler naturally. I've owned businesses, so I understand the sales aspect of this, which I find to be the hardest aspect of being an author, the whole sales and pushing and getting yourself out there and getting people to know your name. That's a very difficult thing. And I think unless you hit it really hard in the very beginning and you get, tons and tons of followers and you're just so great. But even Stephen King didn't do that. In the very beginning, he wasn't awesome and great and wonderful, and they weren't picking him up. He was rejected. He threw his book Carrie in the trash. I mean, everybody has to go through that stepping stool. So my goal for this year is to get to my 10 books. I want to have 10 books out there on the street. And then my goal for by the time I'm 50, which is, a bunch of years away, my goal at that point is to have 50 books on the street. And I figure the more books, the more you're pushing, the more you're putting out there, the more recognition, the more you'll sell your old books. So my butterfly, because I'm selling all of my children books, the moms are like, well, I want to read your adult book. What other adult books do you have coming? So it just rolls. It starts to just spiral.
First thing that is attractive is the name of the book, Butterfly. It looks like you. So I think that is one of the major reasons. I don't know, uh, but
I
that
want to
is one of
make
the.
butterfly shirts. Like I have this whole like idea for when I get back out on the street again, because obviously Corona, I'm still not pushing the streets. It's too up in the air. But once I do get back out there, I want shirts that on the back they have butterflies coming down. So it's just like a black solid shirt and white butterfly wings on the back. I was like, I think that will totally sell.
That's doing multitasking. You are writing, not only writing, just putting your heart in it. You also become a salesperson, and you went and you got the best result for the first book. I think you're inspiration for a lot of beginners. So coming to the second one, how it started and what was it, and how what was your motivation to write?
Hmm. So I had written the Stinky Diaper years and years and years ago with my friend Melissa Kem. And then I didn't know anything about anything when I wrote that book. I didn't know how to push it. I didn't know what to do. So I brought that one back to life. And when I brought that one back to life, I started to go to schools and I started to do book signings in schools. And that's really helpful because now you're in front of, so say you do a full day assembly, like here in America, like our schools can have 400, 500 people in them. I'm not sure, like, I'm sure in India it's the same thing, huge populations, right? So when you go to the schools, and even if you go as a free author, and you tell them, well, I'll come as a free author, but I have to sell at least 100 books, or the school's responsible for those 100 books. The school buys 100 books. Well, now that just costs them $1,000 for an assembly. Well, if 50 kids bought the books, then they cost them 500 for that assembly. If 70 kids bought the books, it costs the school 300. So there's different ways to do it. That's what I do because I'm new. I'm a beginner author. Now, I know that if you are a bigger author and you go out, you charge $3,000 just to walk in the door. But as a new author, I feel like a $500 day that I'm walking away with, that's a successful day. I'm happy with that. I'm just trying to get my books into people's hands. I'm not trying to make a buttload of money yet. Eventually, that's my goal. But for right now, it's just, I just want to get myself out there. So as soon as I start rolling, I read more books. So the Stinky Diaper came out, and while that came out, I had which book was it? Goodnight Monsters. Goodnight Monsters was in progress. And I love that book too. I love my books. They're cute. I love them. And so as that was coming out, so was There Once Was a King. And now all of a sudden I have four books out. And now schools are really wanting to pick me up. And they're like, well, what's coming next? And I have the Cat Whisperer coming out. And I have the Scaredy Cat Spider coming out. And as that starts to happen, you just gain momentum naturally, just naturally. So I want everyone to know, like, your first book is super duper hard. Like, you're just suffering through it and you're trying to get it out there and it's really hard. But as you keep writing more and more books, people start to notice you. You're getting into newspapers. I just got asked to be back on PHL 17, which is a big network out here. And that's because I've got more and more and more, and they want to follow up with me. They're like, well, I remember when you wrote your first book, Butterfly, we did an interview. It's now 2 years later, and you've got 7 books in your hand. Let's meet. And that's the key. So, whatever you do not write that first book and then go, it didn't do well, and sit back and feel sad. Write the next book. And if that doesn't do well, write the next book. Because I'll have to tell you, my books just keep getting better and better and better. When I look back at my older books to now, my writing is stronger. I'm a better writer. I'm a better speaker. I joined Toastmasters. Like, I did everything I could to make sure that when I am in front of people that I'm better. And that's it. That's it. Keep writing the books, keep doing things that make you grow as a writer, and you'll become awesome. And contact me. If there's anybody on here who's like, I'm a writer, I don't know the next step, contact me because I will send you an Instagram message telling you your next step because that's what I do as a coach. I tell people their next step. What do you got to do next in order to get to the next level? So call me, contact me. I will totally tell you whatever you need to know.
Can I say you being a public speaker helped you in becoming a better writer and becoming more confident in writing?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And my writing has made me a better public speaker because I can write a speech. I can write a solid speech. Like, I could sit down with you. You say, Danny, I need a speech about blah. I have to stand in front of blah. And I'll be like, all right, you got 2 hours. Let's spend some time together. Let's write your speech. And I help other speech writers write their speeches now. And I'm working towards what's called the Distinguished Toastmaster. So they're everywhere. So I don't care where you are in the world, if you're in India, there are Distinguished Toastmaster clubs. So you can join. And when I've joined, here's why I joined. I had to do a speech about Butterfly. And instead of just talking about my book, kind of like I was with you, where it's like just very basic and conversational, I had to talk about some of the parts of my book that they're not friendly. They're sad and harder. And they wanted me to be more vulnerable at this speech. And it was called Shift. And I had to actually talk about parts of my book where I lived through an abusive marriage and my mom was just not there. And I had to talk about that on stage to abused people that have lived through it and be a representative of this group of people. It was the hardest speech I've ever written. I held the paper in my hand, shaking as I read the speech. And at that moment, I mean, obviously everybody was like, felt the speech, but that's not a good way to read a speech or to have a speech written. But I didn't know any better at the time. And we're only going back 2 years ago. We're only going back 2 years ago. So, and at that time, I was just kind of like not good at that type of speech. Now, I have been on stage. I can entertain a whole room of children for hours. That's what I do. But when I had to read Butterfly, it was really a struggle to talk about that. I joined Toastmasters, and when I joined Toastmasters, it took me. So I've been in Toastmasters a full almost 2 years now, a full 2 years almost. So to get your distinguished Toastmaster, you have to usually be in around 3.5 years. It's a lot of work, a lot of speeches. You have to give over 40 speeches. And every speech that I give, they give me feedback and they say, okay, Danny, first of all, slow down. That's my biggest problem. I'm a very fast talker. And especially if I get excited, I'll like talk even faster. So the first thing they fixed was my speed. And then they were like, okay, Danny, your subject matter, you're all over the place because I'm a scatterbrain. And with kids, I can be all over the place, but you can't be all over the place with adults. It's a totally different speaking engagement. So that was a struggle. I had to fix that. So over the last 2 years, I've been giving speeches while being fixed on my speeches, and I rehearse all of my speeches inside of Toastmasters, and I have them tell me what's wrong with it. I tighten it up, I fix it. And even this year, I was invited to speak at the Toastmasters convention, which is huge, huge deal. And I got to speak about being an author and how to become an author. So I feel like anybody who, again, I am taking all the steps to just become a better person, a better speaker, a better writer, a better everything. And there's stuff out there to help you do it. So again, with speaking, if somebody ever needed help, send me a message. I will find your Toastmasters near you.
So writing is completely different from speaking. You already have proven good as a good speaker. So when it comes to writing, you have a lot of time to put your thoughts in it. But when it comes to speaking, you have to be very spontaneous, or you have to create your own words at that particular time, or you have to prepare. Like speaking is completely different from writing. Uh, 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 Reaching to people and connecting with people, with which you felt very comfortable and with which you feel that you are very successful.
The difference between writing for a book and writing for a speech is when you write for a book, you then can hold that book. Like, I have this is my newest book that's just coming out. You can hold that book up and you can read from the pages. When you write a speech, you have to memorize your points. That's the hard part, I think, for anybody, is that you write it and it's perfect and it's solid, but then you can't have that paper in front of you. Now you have to take all that time to memorize it, to learn if you want to bring props into it. If you're doing a speech, and sometimes I bring my spider and I have to show you my spider, or you want to show your phone in it, or just things like that. So speaking is a lot harder, I believe, because there's another step. So for writing, you finish your book, you hand it to the editor checks it all, the editor hands it back, you make the changes, you hand it back, it goes back and forth 20,000 times until it's perfect, and then you put it out there, and then you're done. But if then you're going to go speak about either the book or becoming an author or whatever, that's where you have to memorize, or you have to have notes. Some people have like little tiny notes that they'll look at, but those notes have one word on it. Talk about this part, talk about this part. So I find that speaking is actually harder because of that memorization piece. And practice. I stand in front of a mirror. I mean, obviously, I couldn't practice for this because I have no idea what you're asking me. But if I'm about to go up and give I've given 10-minute speeches, I've given 45-minute speeches, I've done 2.5-hour workshops. When you're going to stand up for that, you have to know what you're saying and what you're doing. So it's literally, I'll practice for a month before I step into a serious speaking engagement. Like Tony
Right.
Robbins, he practices and practices. He talks about that. He'll practice and practice and practice. until he knows that he's got it nailed down. And then I allow some spontaneity inside of my speeches. Like if somebody says something out loud to me, like I know how to respond and then go back to my speech. And I practice that at Toastmasters. I'm like, please interrupt me. I need interruptions, because if you get interrupted and you forget your entire speech, you didn't practice enough. You have a problem.
So it shows how deep a thinker are you, and I think you started communicating with the world with the toughest one, which means speaking. I think that made you to become a good communicator through writing. I think because you have a lot of time, you don't need to. You are not restricted. You have compared to speaking, right? So you have a lot of time. You can frame a lot of sentences. You can search words. You can frame a paragraph with a lot of beautiful, like butterfly. Butterfly is like all colors. Like you can put all the colors that you wanted, and you can make it so beautiful, right?
Deadlines are hard. Deadlines are hard. So for Butterfly, I didn't have a deadline. I was a brand new author. It was me. So there was no deadline. Blue Jay, my creepy book I just wrote, and there's no deadline. So my editor came back to me and said, Danny, you're on the fringe of horror. So do you want to be thriller or do you want to be horror? What do you want to be? And I was like, horror, huh? All right. Yeah, I think I want to try horror. So I get Blue Jay back, and now I need to make it creepier. I can't even believe, first of all, if you meet me, you'll be like, I can't believe you wrote a horror book. Like the woman takes out her husband in the beginning of the book. I mean, it's just a crazy book. But I feel like I can keep redoing it. But if somebody said to me, you have a month to finish this book, I wouldn't have that flexibility to be able to know that I can go to a new genre, that I can push the limits. So when I have a speech coming up and someone says, "Okay, Danny," like I have a speech coming up on September 11th. I think that's a Saturday, September 11th, and I have 8 minutes that I can speak to the kids. And it's a huge global event. And I was like, okay, I've been practicing for that. Even though it's kids, I already know the speech I'm going to give. I already know what we're going to be talking about. I already know all the rules. Like each speech that I give, like they have different parameters. So for this global event, one of the parameters is they don't want you just pushing and selling your products. So this is a different type of speech. I have to change my direction a little bit and practice the speech and make sure that it's tight. Well, if that day comes and I don't feel ready, it's not like a book where I'm like, well, I'll just give myself another 2 months. It's not like that. This is like, okay, you're not ready. Tough, get on stage. So I think that makes it, and that makes writing a little bit easier for me.
So what was your third book, and what is it about?
My Blue Jay, the second novel.
The third one. Second
Uh,
one you
so,
said already.
Oh, okay. So my books went in order: Butterfly, The Stinky Diaper, and then these are children books. We're moving into children books. Goodnight Monster, which is a story about a little girl who won't go to sleep, and the mom's like, "Please go to sleep," and she's like, "But I see monsters everywhere." And in the story, the kids can find the cute little monsters, and the monsters are everyday stuff. So it's a plant monster. It's a dresser monster. And it's things where the mom's like, please go to bed. And you see her like in the storyline, like, please, please, why are you not going to bed? You're just killing me right now. Because in realistic life, the mom is not like, oh, da, 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 come on, back to bed, la, 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 la. So I make it so the mom's like going crazy, like, I just wish my kid would go to bed. So the story is between the mom and the daughter. And in the end, of course, the mom tucks her back in, gives her love, and says good night. And the little girl's like, good night, monsters. And the world shuts down. That's my third book. And then my fourth book, my friends have some kids that were having trouble reading. I actually wrote a book for my friends. Like, I know that sounds really strange, but I wanted to help them. So that's this book. This is There Once Was a King. And There Once Was a King is seriously just sight words, all sight words for younger age groups. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's sight words for younger age groups. So it's like crown, eyes, beard. So every picture has a bunch of sight words on it. And I focuses on this for kindergarten, first grade, because like I said, I have friends that have kids in these grades and they're struggling. So I wrote a book for him. It worked out really well. And it's helpful to other kids. I love this book. My illustrator, let's talk about my illustrators. My illustrator on this book is Kira Steiner. She's a senior in high school this year. She's a kid. So I had kids writing my books. Goodnight Monsters is a kid. She's also a senior in high school this year. So I got to pair up with these new illustrators that these are kids that want to be illustrators. And I said, come on, let's do a book together. I'll get you out there. And that's what's been happening. I find it to be like, it's awesome. The kids are awesome and doing it's awesome. And then, so that's There Once Was a King. Cat Whisperer, this is a proof copy. It's coming out now. This is actually a comic book adventure story about this girl, Caitlin. It's based on a true story. The Cat Whisperer is going to be 100% donation. None of the money is coming to either author, myself, and Dana. My friend Dana did it with me. And Phil, he's my illustrator. None of us are making a dollar on this book. We did it 100% for animal shelters to profit. So they buy the books off of us, and each book costs our cost, which is $4 right now, and then they make $6 off of each book, and that just goes to them. So this is, I weirdly enough, this is the most exciting book of all of my books, and it's not going to make me any money, but it's going to help continue this journey that this girl, Caitlin O'Hara, who had passed away saving an animal, and it's going to continue her life and her legacy and her journey. So this is my favorite book yet. Sounds weird.
So yeah. So first four books are children books.
So yeah, I have four children books. I have two more like on their way right now that are in illustration. This book called Messy Millie. It's a really cute story about a little girl who just won't keep her anything clean, anything at all. Her room's a mess. She goes into the kitchen's a mess. She Wherever she goes. And my illustrator, this guy Keith, he's just phenomenal. His style is so awesome. Each of my books have a different style because I pick different illustrators. And then I have There Once Was a Farmer that's coming out soon. It's to match There Once Was a King. Anyway, There Once Was a Farmer is another sight word book, and I'm going to do 10 in that series. So I have a lot
So
going on.
yeah, it seems like it looks like you're a very keen observer when it comes to kids. I think the previous work of yours, working as a teacher, I think that helped you a lot in understanding what they do and what they connect with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I've worked with children for since I was 19, so forever. Absolutely. And I love children. I walk into a room and if there's kids, I'm like, what do I have in my car? I might have my face painting kit. I might have some of my books. I might have toys. That's the first thing I gravitate towards. I've always been like that. So I think that's awesome. And then, like I said, I have two adult books, which are going to go under the pen name DL or DS Lacy, and DS Lacey is going to be a totally different genre base. So that's going to be my superhero novel Esprit, which I've been working on for about a year now. I have like the baseline, and then Blue Jay, which is like I said, my creepy novel. It's about to be launched.
So where these stories are coming from?
I have no idea. I have no idea. It's like for Blue Jay was really weird because I started this book that was going to be kind of like the story of the traveling pants, like that type of story, like girls and love and just like a great like cute story. And it was about a DNA test. And then I was like, ugh, I like totally don't like my own book. Like I just it was the DNA test was good and that part was good, but it was so boring. Like I was bored writing my book. And then all of a sudden I went to sleep like one night and the next day I pictured this character, Johnny. And Johnny's coming home from a New Year's Eve party and I had this dream and he gets into this terrible car crash and this car crash just is awful. Like I don't want to give you too much of the book. So then I'm like, well, maybe Johnny can be the beginning of this DNA test. Maybe there's something there. Maybe there's something there. And then I was like, I don't know. So I wrote it all out, left it to the side. And about like 2 weeks later, I remember I was just sitting there and I was trying to write. And sometimes if I can't write, I'll just write whatever and I'll just keep writing. Just whatever, whatever. The sun outside looks great, like whatever. And then all of a sudden, Corinne came to me. And Corinne is this woman who has suffered abuse in her marriage and she has had enough and she takes out her husband. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is it. I'm gonna have Johnny, Corinne, they're all gonna meet together. The DNA test is gonna come later. It's gonna pull it all together. Got my story. This is my story. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be awesome. Corinne is gonna be creepy." And I designed this character and I had like a lot of beta readers. So I had some serious mixed feedback with my beta readers because I genred it wrong when I sent it out. So I had some people come back and go, it's too gruesome. I can't read this book. What is going on? And then I had some people come back and go, oh my gosh, it needs to be darker. You need to go darker. And it's weird because I'm not a dark person. Like I'm like happy. I'm sunshine. Like that's me. Like I'm happy. I love life. I try to make it through everything. If I have a bad day, I try to like suck it up the next day. But this book is so dark. And there's like moments of happiness in it, of course, because you have to. But it is a dark book, the whole book. And everyone's like, where did this come from? Because if you just read one chapter, the first chapter, which I am now changing, I have to soften the blow because you come into the book and you're like 3 pages in and you're like intensely being like beat up. So I actually now my editor said that she wants me to tell a lot of backstory. I need 80 pages coming into the beginning of the book because I'm not kidding when I tell you, you walked into the book and on page 3, you're being smacked with blood and gore. So, and again, I am a children's writer. I don't know what happened, but I have this other side to me that I need to explore. So I'm like trying all genres, the superhero, I did the memoir, and then I did my fiction-based novel, thriller. So
But why the Sunshine understood about dark and decided to write about dark?
I had talked about, and actually, I'm reading my friend's book right now. So this is the Full Spirit Workout. This is my friend Kate Eckman, and I'm actually reading her book right now. This is a self-help book, and she's great. It's just really geniusly written. I just the way she did this book. And I've been reading this book for a little bit now because it's you have to do stuff in the book, and I'm doing it. It's her book. I'm her friend. She sent it to me. I'm doing what it says. And I thought about self-help type of book, but I can't figure out exactly where I would go with that, like what my exact topic would be. What's my point? Like for her, she did this 10-step system to shed your self-doubt, strengthen your spiritual core, and create a fun and fulfilling life. Well, that's awesome, right? You're like, yeah, I want a part of that. That sounds like an awesome, awesome book. And the way she did it is she took everything and made it like exercising, which I don't exercise, but I still totally can relate to Kate Ackerman's book. So it's like stretch your comfort zone, lift yourself up, feel the burn. Like totally genius. I haven't come up with anything like that yet. Like I can't seem to pull that what I want that to be. It's kind of the same with my TED Talk. I've been talking about doing a TED Talk, but I can't seem to figure out what is my 20-minute TED Talk going to be about. What do I really want to tell you? What can I add to your life? I mean, I have moments like of things I can add, but that's like a whole 20-minute speech, which is 50 moments of things I can add. And I just haven't gotten there quite yet. I'm still working on that part.
So, what is the response that you got for the pure imagination that you have about kids from kids?
Oh, I love kids. I do these assemblies. I'm crazy. So, like, when I come into an assembly, I'm bringing stuff. Like, we're not just reading a book and talking. We do games, we do activities. So, for the stinky diaper, I actually show up at the assembly with stuffed animals with diapers on them and chocolate all melted in the diaper that looks like poop. And then I call on like 5 kids and I'm like, come on up on the stage. And they come up on stage and they have to change the diaper. Well, they think it's poop. So they're like screaming and yelling, and the people in the audience are freaking out. They're holding it up. And I love it. I love it. I have kids come up in the front and hold my spider. I it's interactive. So when I go into the classrooms, it's an interactive environment. Unless I'm doing like a writer workshop, then that's a little bit less. Obviously I come down 100 notches of who I am, but I'll bring my guitar, I'll sing songs, like I just do whatever.
But when you started podcast, I saw you becoming a podcaster and doing this work too. I mean, trying to connect with through this medium also.
Dude, podcasting is hard. It's hard. You know, it's hard. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of like meeting people and bringing people in. I actually took the summer off from my podcast to give myself a mental break. But so I started my podcast as Dear Girlfriend, which I would like to say if anybody wants that name, send me a message. I'll give it to you because it is a great name. It's a great name. The problem I had was, what do you think was happening with the name Dear Girlfriend? I wasn't getting guys that wanted to be on it. And I want to talk to my guys. So then I talked to my branding expert, and my branding expert said, "You have a problem. You are writing children's books. You are writing adult books. You are writing memoirs. You have a podcast called Dear Girlfriend, which is just for women. And you're not putting it all together well. So your website's a mess. You're a mess. You've got tons going on, but your branding is horrifying, right?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know what to do." She's like, "You have to change the name of your podcast." I was like, "I love Dear Girlfriend. I love the name. I love saying it. Hello, dear girlfriend." I love it all the way around. And when she said you have to change it and it has to be centered around you. And I'm like, "Well, what am I going to call it?" And she's like, "The Danielle Lacy podcast? Be you." So I changed it to the Danielle Lacy show because I always want to have other people on. But I've started doing interviews with people. So originally I started just trying to be me by myself. It's like impossible just to sit there and talk by myself. I decided that's not what I wanted to do. So if you go back and you look at my podcast and you want to see growth, I didn't change anything. I left everything the way it was. So even on my website, you can see the beginning podcast, what the pictures look like, what the branding looked like, and you'll see me grow as I get up to podcast number 24, 25. And as I do that, and I turn into the Danielle Lacy show. I now have been like kind of saying like I want to be less interview style and I want to be more couch comfy coffee-ish style. So you're going to see another shift in my podcast until I figure out who I'm going to be. And I watch and listen to other podcasts and have paid attention to them from the beginning, paid attention to them at the end. And again, it is practice. So if you've started your brand new podcast, the only goal you have to keep in mind is try to make sure that you're doing it weekly because you do lose your following if you don't. I have like 520 consistent followers on my podcast, which I have no idea if that's a lot or a little. I've only been doing it since January, but I plan on putting a lot more information out there. I want to have like sections on my podcast. So some will be about author, some will be about speaking, some will be about just interviews with awesome people. Like you are totally going to be on my podcast. So just doing things like that. So I have some more ideas going on with the podcast, but if you are an author and you're trying to be a podcaster and a speaker and you work, teaching or whatever your job is, it's a lot of balls to keep up in the air. So I actually solicited a Kill, he's in India, to help me to become organized. He's like the guru of organization. What's his name? What's a Kill's thing called? You remember? I'll have to remember what that is and give that to you later. But he is just amazing. He's amazing. And he's helped me. He's helped me so much because I am a butterfly. I'm all over the place. I'm not a very organized person, but when it comes to business, I can force it. And there's so many moving parts with this. I had to seriously force the organization because I'll just forget. Oh, crap. Podcast. I forgot to do a podcast this week. And then I'm like anxious and calling people. Want to be on my podcast? So you don't want to do that. So the organization behind it needs to be stabilized.
So four different jobs. Started with teaching. You become a writer. Then you become a podcaster. You're into all communication mediums. So uh, are you fearless, or you just don't care what is happening in front of your senses?
That's a great question because it's really bizarre because I realized through all of these stages that I had to stop caring what people thought. I care what people thought. I'm an empath. So like if you don't like me, I'm like, why don't you like me? Oh, that's terrible. So I come across like I've got it all together and I'm so strong. But in the very beginning of all of this, I remember the night before I hit publish and sent through Butterfly where it was launched and everyone could buy it. I had a nervous breakdown inside of myself where I was like, this was a bad idea. I'm going to get judged. I don't want to be judged. This is terrible. So I actually went through like a really bad moment with that. And I started to realize that like you cannot be what I am and care what anybody thinks. And you're talking about I'm 30, I was 41. I'm 44 now. 40 I was 42 when I launched this book. So my whole life I didn't realize that I had a self-esteem, self-worth, caring what other people thought problem until I went to launch that book and then I was like a wreck, a nervous wreck. And now I just don't care. I've gotten over that. Now I'm like, look, you know what? You're not doing it. Like usually people who are saying, "Oh, so and so did this and it was terrible." Well, they're not doing it. So people in the beginning when I started, because at first I started on YouTube, I was trying. I don't know. You have to learn. You have to learn this. This is not easy. Like when you get your first video camera out and you're like, "What's with the lighting?" You know your lighting sucks, but you can't fix it because you don't know it. You got to put it out there. And then, eventually look at my lighting now. If you look at like my first YouTubes, I leave them all up there on purpose because I feel like someday I'm going to be able to talk about this growth. If you look at them, oh my gosh, it's so bad. The lighting's so bad. The voices are everything is just so bad. And I did have some negative feedback from people like behind my back saying like, "Oh, she's not going to go anywhere with this. She's not." And this is going back 2 years ago. Well, fast forward 2 years, if I would have listened to those people, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And honestly, I'm super proud of where I'm at today. I've helped tons of authors get their books out there. I've helped tons of people break through their speaking. I'm good. I'm good where I'm at mentally. But there was a moment where I was kind of like, what if no one likes it? What if it's horrible? What if I don't do well? What if it doesn't sell? There was so much that went into that. And now I'm like, I don't even care if it sells. I'm just going to keep putting books out there because someday when I die, I'm going to have books out there. Like I will forever be on someone's library somewhere and I'm going to forever be in the podcast world or on the YouTube. Like I'm not going to go away. And I think if you're the type of person that wants to leave a legacy behind and you want to just make yourself not even known because obviously like, I'm kind of known but not really. I just want to be out there. And you cannot do that if you have any self issues where you're scared. So now I just am fearless. I just do it. I'm like, what am I doing now? Sure, let's do it. Let's go. I'll try it, whatever.
So my question to you is, what is working for you to make things possible?
Always pushing, always pushing, always moving forward. I mean, there are days where I'm so overwhelmed. Like just the other day, I literally cried because somebody threw the rice that I wanted to eat out of my refrigerator because I was so overwhelmed that I have so much to do because I have two. First of all, Corona's like just ending, and now I have all these events to do. And I'm in the middle of these launches, and all of a sudden, while I'm in the middle of the launches, and I have to be getting people involved, and there's so much work to do. And then on top of it, I have these speeches that I'm about to give because the world's opening back up in September, and people are now booking me. And I felt the sense of I really wish Corona was back because I didn't have anything to do. And now I'm scared because I have so much to do and it's so hard. And then my rice wasn't there. And I was like, where's the rice? And I just started crying over rice, literally over rice. So I think people need to know like push yourself to your max, but know when you hit that max, which is if you start crying over rice, you need to stop for a second. And I did. I just stopped and said, you know what, tomorrow's a new day. I have to start back over because I'm not fresh. I'm tired. I'm cranky. I have these two, one book is coming back to me that needs to be put into production to become an actual book. I've got pictures and words. This book is ready to be pushed. We just finished the final proofing of it. Like when you have Blue Jay needs me, I need to read through Blue Jay. I have this final edit to go through. That when you start to look at it like that, it's overwhelming. And that's what happened to me. Like I said, just the other day, it all became too much, and it all the balls dropped at once, and I was just a wreck. And that's one thing I try to tell people, like when that starts to happen, you need to just stop everything for a minute, even if you have these deadlines, and push off your deadlines. And I did. I told everybody, hey, I know I was supposed to get this to you by Tuesday. I'm sorry, it's not happening until Thursday. And allow yourself that flexibility. Like today, if I couldn't do this Skype call with you, I would have said, hey, listen, I am just so overwhelmed, I can't do it. Can we move this over to Thursday? And you're going to say, sure, of course, let's do that. But I think people fear asking for that extension, asking to move things up, but you can't, because you're going to put out crap product. And I refuse to put out crap product. And, even if I could show you, I wish I knew where it was. My editor wrote me a note and she said, I know you're not going to like what I'm about to say. And I love Kim. She said, but your writing has gotten so much stronger that the parts of the book that you have rewritten do not pair with the rest of the book anymore. And you need to go through the entire book at your new writing level. I I, I would really, I was done. Blue Jay was done, and it's not done because because you do, as a writer, you start here, and as you have your editor edit your stuff, and you're like, oh, that's how that's supposed to be done. You go to here, and then you go to here, and then every edit you learn how to become a better writer, and then all of a sudden you're here. Well, all of that stuff down here is crap. And now, because you're here, you're better, you have to go back through. And that's why I said I was thinking about redoing Butterfly, because I am a better writer now. I understand how to write now. And I never wrote a third person book in my life. I never wrote a third person story. My senior thesis for college was not in third person. Blue Jay is in third person. That is not easy. It's really, really difficult to do. First person is by far, to me, the easiest way to write. And I had to learn through writing how to be a third person writer. So it's like, it's not even like I'm just writing a book. It's like I'm writing a book and I have to be studying English on how to write third person. Because even when I'm teaching people writing, I'm teaching people speaking, genuinely, I'm not teaching how to write from third person. I'm teaching first person. So now I have this whole new skill set, which that's what you guys are doing, stacking your skill set. And as I stacked my skill set, now I have a new skill set. But it took me, Blue Jay is about 2 years in the making to learn that. Now my next book is Spree, much easier. That third person is so much easier for me. It's hard. It's so hard.
So tell me about your observation power and absorption power, and also the collection of thoughts that you have in your mind when you visited 27 countries.
Oh, I love traveling. So I had never gone anywhere when I was a kid, ever. We didn't go on family vacations. Like I said, we didn't have the money, so we didn't go places. And when I was 18, and I talk about this in Butterfly, you actually travel with me in the book. But when I was 18, I was a mess. I was just not doing well. I was failing out of college. I was hanging out with the wrong crowd. I was just smoking weed every day. I was just not where I needed to be. I was a mess. And I decided I was going to stop everything and start my life again. And that's kind of what I do. I'm that person. Like I'll be like, all right, stop. Wait a minute. Let's start again. And I decided to become an au pair. I got accepted in Holland, and I moved to Holland. And this is the first time I'd ever been on a plane. I went by myself. So first time I had been on a plane, first time I had ever gone anywhere outside of the local 3 states near me. I just I left. And when I was there, I had time off as an au pair that I could travel. And by myself, I was literally 18, 19 years old. And by myself, I traveled to 8 countries. And that was the start of it. That was like my epiphany moment. That was my wake up call. That was the change of who I am and how I became who I am today. I believe this moment. And just to be able to get on a train and go to Spain by yourself, and you booked your own hotel room, and you're going on these trips when you're there, and just to be able to do that is growth. And when I got done all of that, I came home a year later, and I came home and nothing had changed here. Everything was the same except for me. And then I went back to college. I got my grades up. I graduated cum laude with 2 degrees. I fixed it. I fixed everything. But I still was me. So I was still impulsive and I still did crazy things. I got pregnant when I was in college, and then I had a baby while I was in college, and just things like that. I always make my life a little bit more difficult, but at the same time, I always am moving forward and moving up. And then I decided I love traveling, and I then started traveling with my son Nolan, and we started traveling the United States because it was easier. So we drove to Massachusetts, to Maryland, to Maine, to North Carolina. And I love traveling. It just kept spiraling and spiraling and spiraling. And I've gone on mission trips with House Paws. Actually, Dana is my friend from House Paws. She's also the writer of this book, Cat Whisperer, coming out. And we would go on mission trips together. And I went to Curacao and Dominican Republic again. And just I just kept finding positions and areas that could keep me traveling and keep me going. And I love it. Everyone should travel. Everyone should try to find the opportunity to travel somewhere outside of us because it's so different. It's so different. I promise
So
you, India is next. We are planning, once Corona is over, India is like the top of my list. It's India, back to Holland to visit some friends. And I really want to take my family to Italy. So we're going.
coach, speaker, and writer, podcaster. So all these jobs. So as a human being, if I ask you as a human being, how these professions of yours affected you, and what is the change that you are experiencing because of all these professions?
I feel like I'm growing. And I think that's what this is all about. Everything that we do in life is about our own personal growth. At the end of the day, and I realized this after my mom passed away. I didn't realize this sooner. But at the end of the day, when my mom passed away, I realized that she was gone, and I still felt it, and my dad still felt it, and some of my family still felt that. But the rest of the world moved on, and everybody went about their business, and I still have to deal with that feeling. And if anybody's ever lost their mom that's listening, they know what I'm talking about. If you lost your dad or your brother or your like, there's something that just changes you. It changes you, whether it be for the good or the bad. Because some people, like when my grandmom and grandpa passed away, my mom went into her state of depression. When my mom went and passed away, I was like, I will not be depressed. I will not be that person. I'm going to grow. I'm going to have the growth. And I feel like that's all it's about. At the end of the day, you are on your own. This is your story, your journey. What are you going to leave behind? What's your legacy? And for me, I want to leave behind hope and happiness. And I want to help things like animals and people. And I want to coach people to have their fullest ability. Or I do my ESL because I love having somebody like you come to me and say, hey, I want to learn English better. And I'm working with you in India and I'm coaching you to be a better speaker. I love writing speeches. Like I wrote a speech with my friend Malti, and she went pretty high up in the district competitions. And it's like, I love that. I love that. You just want to leave a mark on the earth. And the only mark that I want to leave is knowing that I help people along the way. And in order to do that, you have to be a survivor and you have to keep growing and you have to keep trying new things because I wouldn't be able to be a coach for speaking if I wasn't a speaker. I wouldn't be able to teach people how to write in English if I wasn't writing in English, you know? So every step that I take, like I said, I believe in that whole stacking your talents. And now I have this whole big talent that all is surrounded by writing.
So logic and emotion, which one is a higher percentage in you?
Emotion. 100%. 100%. I am fully emotion. Now, I can pull logic when I have to because, like, that's a skill that you have to have. But even my daughter, like, will tell you, she'll be like, my mom is so emotional. Everything's about emotion. Everything's about feeling. How does she feel about the situation? Because I won't even, if I like meet you, so I've like met people who are potential coaching clients through some of the apps that I use and stuff. And I've met with them and said, I don't think I'm the one for you. I'm not going to work for you. Like, you're awesome, but I am not for you. You need somebody different than me. And I know it right away because that's that. If you're not going to feel it. You're not going to grow with me if you can't do as I'm doing. So that I know that right away with people. But yeah, I'm 100% emotional. I write children books for crying out loud. It's all emotional.
Awesome. So if you send me all your books links and to me, I'll put in the description of this video. People who finds our video on YouTube can find your links and can see the work that you're doing, not only from India or not only from US, Canada, or they can buy from anywhere. I'm sure they can.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. I actually love when people buy directly off my website because then I can sign their book. Again, emotional. So I always write something nice and we'll send it out there. So contact me through my website, whatever you want. I tell people if they're buying a bunch of books, contact me. We can do something with shipping costs. And I'm on Amazon, but I push everything through my website, which is easy, www.daniellelacy.com. And I talk to you. Just send me a message. I have people who send me notes all the time, like whatever. I answer back. I'm like a real touchy feely type of person. So if you say to me like, "Oh, Danny, why did you write this in the book?" I answer you. I don't want my reader to be curious about something when they have a hands-on like author right there. You write me a note, I personally answer back. I personally send out my books. Everything's very personal for me.
So definitely, they can find your link, your website link in the description of this video, and can see the work that they are doing, that you are doing. And it's amazing talking with you, and you being in different professions, and telling what is working for you, and making things possible, and how you are curious about things, and I can understand how deep you are into the study. And when you said about writing, I really felt amazed. You know what exactly works for you, and I think that is why the reason you got enough sales, and you know what uh, makes things possible. I think you know what exactly you are. I think you have to be you, and I hope you will be you.
Thank you so much. And the same with you. From watching you, I feel the same way. Like I watch a bunch of your interviews, like just the clips real quick to kind of get to know you a little bit more. And I'm so excited for what you're doing. Keep going. Keep going. You got this too. And you know what? And you tell your people all the time, it's all about going. You just need to keep moving. So I appreciate you asking me to come on, and I look forward to having you on the Danielle Lacy show.
Yeah, I have a lot of similar qualities that you have, but I live in different part of the world. But still, what you think, what you believe, whatever you are saying when it comes to communication, writing, and speaking, I was telling inside me, I'm silent when you're talking. I'm silent inside me. Yeah, yeah, she's correct. She's correct. Whatever she's saying is, that is what works in order to, make thoughts out and make people to connect with it. I think that is why the reason I got success very fast, and you got success very fast. I took 450 plus interviews in just 1 year, and everything is going very very well. And I'm going to do more like 4,000 or 40,000 interviews in coming days. So this is one of the best interviews in all the collection that I have.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I love that because I just think it's so much fun to be able to talk to people. And I believe like there's like everybody has somebody on the other side that's going to be like them. So you're like my little soulmate from India. Woohoo, woohoo.
And you're very intelligent.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, if only I could just get myself for Blue Jay, my only goal, and this is what's happening. This is why Blue Jay will not be out for a while. I will get Blue Jay traditionally published. This book
So
is, I want to be a horror author. I want my books next to Stephen King's. I'm going to make that happen.
do that, and then whenever you publish any book, don't forget to tell me. I want to tell to my audience every time when you uh, put your emotions out through the words.
Thank you so much for everything. And I will be getting in touch with you soon to get you on my podcast.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for offering, and as a human being, as a person who communicated, who used all the mediums to interact with people. What do you say about my work? Have you seen any videos of mine on YouTube? The kind of videos that I'm doing, and tell me about your experience about my work in this video.
Your interview style is great. You interview just like I do. So when you're on my show, you're going to be like, wait, this is so weird. I feel like I'm interviewing myself because I was kind of like, I don't really get interviewed as much as I interview. So when I'm getting interviewed, I'm like, oh, this is really easy. Like, this is simple because we just talk back and forth to each other and you interview exactly like I do. So it worked really, really well because you do what I do. You'll stop, you'll listen, you'll think of something as I'm talking. And then as soon as it's done, you're like, wait, this came up. This was my thought. Let's ask this. And I'm the same way when I interview. And that's a specific interview style. There's many different interview styles that people take. So it's really fascinating to see that that's your style too. It's you feel like you're just like hanging out with a friend. Like you're just chilling. We're just chilling. We're just having a conversation, and once in a while you ask a witty question, and then we take that question and we roll from it. So I think you need to keep going. You need to keep going with what you're doing. And I love that you're always outside in all of your videos. You're outside in a different part wherever you are. There's like trains and cars, and you're just so real. I just met a guy recently, and he walks when he's doing the interview. He's like walking. So the whole time it's like this. But after a couple minutes, you're like, oh, that makes sense. He's just getting his exercise while he interviews. So I think it's wonderful what you're doing. And you're connecting so many people from everywhere. I remember my first interview with somebody from Britain, and now I'm talking to India, and I've talked in India before, and I remember being like, I'm talking to Britain. You must have felt the same exact way when that happened, like your first interview across seas. So I love it. Keep on going, man. You got this. I'm going to watch you grow. You're going to watch me grow, and we're going to bring everybody with us.
Yeah, that's what I want to say. I will watch you growing, and I want you to watch me growing. So I'm sure in coming days, we the people are going to create some positive effect on this planet, and God should feel very proud to put us on this planet.
I agree 100%. He did a good job with us.
Yeah. So can I put this video on my YouTube channel with your permission?
Yes, of course.
And also, can I put this video and audio clip on my podcast website, social media, internet, everywhere with your permission?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you'll send it to me, and I will share it on all of my medias, on my website, and everywhere too. So
Yeah, definitely, I will share you. And whenever you publish, whenever you do something different, or whenever you create something which nobody created, when you create something that you love most, like you do always, don't forget to tell me. I want to tell that to my audience because I'm sure after watching this, after listening to you, they will expect more from me through you and
absolutely.
from you. Yeah.
I'll send you Blue Jay before it's even finished.
Wow.
You
I'm
can be a
blessed.
reader. You can be a reader. I'll send it to you. And then you'll be like, I know what she's talking about now. What the hell?
I will definitely read it. The first thing that I loved is the name of your book and how you presented. And I want to mention one thing. My mother is also a cancer patient, and she took chemotherapy in last 6 months, and she's still trying to come out. So I was listening to you very,
It's
keenly when you was
hard.
telling.
Well,
So
listen, do not go through that alone because I went through that alone. No, none of my friends had ever gone through that. So I was really, because it's one thing you're trying to take care of your mom, and that was what you step into first. You have to take care of your mom, but totally reach out to me because you feel that too, and in a different way. I mean, even if she's going through the chemo and she's getting better, which is obviously what we hope, that's what I hope. My mom went through chemo also, but you kind of just try to be there for your mom, try to be there for your mom, and you don't want anybody to see you vulnerable. And that's when you should reach out to me because you need to be able to be like, this is so horrible. It's so horrible to go through that. It's so horrible to be a caregiver. It's just a terrible experience. And as much as I try to make it a happy experience because that's what I do, it's a terrible, terrible experience. And it's not until after it's over, whether they survive or whether they pass away, that you feel that impact. And then it's overwhelming. And I remember going through that. And that's why I wrote Butterfly,
yeah,
because I needed to get it all out of me. I needed a release. I was I was such a mess. I was such a mess. It was just such a, it's just watching it is such a mess. And anybody who's going through that, you're going through it. I went through it. If you don't know somebody who went through it and you don't have somebody to stand by your side to say, I know I've been there. I hear you. Yeah, tell me what you're feeling. Get it out of you. It's a really bad situation if you don't do that. And anybody else who's listening to us right now, like if you're going through this, read Butterfly, reach out, see that other people have gone through this too. It's not just you. And I don't care. You might know 100 people who've gone through it. You still feel isolated. You still feel isolated. I don't know why that is. And again, remember I said earlier, you stand alone. You truly stand alone, but you need to bring other people in. So I
Awesome.
got you. I'm here for you. We will be in contact now that I know that. I'm going to bother you.
Thank you very much. Your words are valuable for me, and I will think after completion of this video. Uh, you affected me a lot, and I'm sure your words and your tips, what you said about writing, speaking, everything, all the professions that and your experience, and definitely it affects somebody somewhere on this planet. I'm sure they will follow you after this. I'll put all your links in the description, and I want you to keep going and just do what you love.
Thank you. Thank you for the interview. You're awesome.
Yeah. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.